They targeted the Helpless. Earth's fleet arrived without mercy. The vast observation dome of Viridian Research Station offered an unparalleled view of Proxima Centauri B's crimson-tinged skyline. Dr. Eris Thorne stood transfixed by the sight, as he did most evenings during the station's artificial twilight cycle. The mineral-rich asteroid they'd built upon provided both resources and a perfect vantage point for the team's xenobiological research. Still staring at the same stars? Alara Thorne's voice carried a gentle, teasing tone as she approached, her engineer's uniform bearing the grease stains of a day spent maintaining the station's life support systems. Eris turned with a smile. The view never gets old. 15 light years from Earth, and we've built something remarkable here. Alara wrapped her arms around his waist, joining him in contemplation of the alien sky. 150 scientists, plus families, living on the edge of known space. Studying rather than conquering. I'd say that's humanity at its best. Daddy, Mom. Their 8-year-old daughter Lyra burst into the dome, her dark hair bouncing with each step. Dr. Kavita says the new samples from the northern crater are showing signs of cellular division. Can I stay up late to watch? Eris laughed, lifting his daughter. Absolutely not. But I promise we'll record it for you to see tomorrow. The three stood together, a family united in the pursuit of knowledge at humanity's farthest outpost. In moments like these, the isolation from Earth seemed a small price to pay for being pioneers. Yet lately, a vague unease had settled over Viridian. Communications with other outposts experienced unexplained interruptions. Long-range sensors picked up anomalous readings that defied classification. Last week, Alara had mentioned feeling watched during her EVA repair mission. Those scans revealed nothing. The Cthar Empire remained a distant concern. Ancient, militaristic, and arrogant, they viewed younger species as irritants in what they considered their rightful domain. But their territories were believed to be far from this sector, their cruelties mere rumors among freight captains and colonists. Did you see the strange signal pattern security flag this morning? Alara asked quietly, once Lyra had wandered to the interactive star map display. Eris nodded grimly. Third time this month, and long-range comms have been silent for nearly 30 hours. I've asked Torres to run a full diagnostic. You think it's them? Alara's voice dropped to a whisper. I think we should be prepared for anything, Eris replied, his arms tightening protectively around his wife. Just in case. As if summoned by his words, the station's alert system blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the observation dome as Chief Security Officer Amari's voice crackled through the intercom. Unidentified vessels approaching. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Eris rushed to the dome's console, bringing up the external feed. What he saw froze his blood. 5 sleek, angular vessels of dark metallic construction, their hulls adorned with jagged protrusions that seemed as much ceremonial as functional. Even without identifying markings, he recognized them from intelligence briefings. Cthar warships, he breathed. Alara was already moving, grabbing Lyra. We need to get to the secure section. Now. The first impact rocked the station before they reached the door. Alloy panels buckled as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Somewhere deep within Viridian, pressure seals ruptured with a distant scream of metal. Defensive systems failing. Amari's voice was strained. Communications jammed. We can't. The transmission cut abruptly. They ran through corridors rapidly filling with panicked researchers and their families. Emergency bulkheads began closing automatically, separating sections of the station. Eris guided his family toward the central hub, where the station's minimal defensive measures were concentrated. The second barrage hit with greater precision. Power failed throughout entire sections. Through viewport windows, Eris glimpsed Cthar landing craft, obsidian mantis-like vessels, approaching the outer docking bays. They're boarding, he said, his voice hollow. They reached the central hub to find chaos. Dr. Kavita was organizing an evacuation to the emergency shuttles, while Engineer Ramirez attempted to restore communications. On the monitors that still functioned, Security feeds showed the first Kthar troops breaching the outer laboratories. They moved with methodical efficiency, tall, armored figures encased in overlapping chitinous plates, wielding energy weapons that discharged with brutal effectiveness. These weren't soldiers sent to subdue or capture. They executed anyone they encountered with clinical precision. "This isn't a raid," Amari said, blood seeping from a gash on her forehead as she distributed the station's few weapons to security personnel. "They're exterminating us." Alara grabbed Eris's arm. "The reactor core. If they damage it without proper shutdown." "Go," he urged. "You're the only one who can secure it. I'll get Lyra to an escape pod." Their eyes met in silent understanding, perhaps their last moment together. Alara kissed him fiercely, then knelt to embrace Lyra. "Be brave for Daddy," she whispered. "I'll find you both soon." Eris watched her disappear down the maintenance shaft before turning to Kavita. "How many shuttles are still operational?" "3, maybe 4. Not enough." Her expression was grim. "We need to prioritize the children and essential personnel." Eris nodded, his scientific mind calculating odds, even as his heart rebelled against the necessity. "I need to grab something from my lab first. It could be vital." With Lyra's hand clutched tightly in his, Eris took a circuitous route through maintenance corridors to his laboratory. The sounds of combat, energy discharges and screams, grew closer with each passing minute. In his lab, Eris headed straight for the secure terminal. He removed a crystalline data core, downloading the station's final operational logs and his team's research findings, particularly their recent work on alien protein structures, which might contain information on Kthar biochemistry. As he worked, the lab door exploded inward. A Kthar warrior stepped through, its helmet's optical sensors focusing instantly on the humans. Eris pushed Lyra behind a workstation as the warrior raised its weapon. A barrage of improvised explosives, compressed oxygen canisters modified by someone with engineering knowledge, detonated in the corridor behind the Kthar. The blast threw the warrior forward, giving Eris precious seconds to grab a chemical spray from his workbench and douse the creature's optical sensors. Temporarily blinded, it fired wildly as Eris scooped up Lyra and fled through the rear laboratory exit. They weren't the only ones trying to escape. Small groups of survivors converged on the emergency shuttle bay, shepherded by the remaining security personnel. Through a viewport, Eris witnessed the horror unfolding across Viridian. Systematically destroyed sections, bodies floating in decompressed chambers, Kthar troops advancing with implacable determination. And through it all, no demands, no communications. Only extermination. A muffled explosion echoed from the direction of the reactor core. Eris closed his eyes briefly, grief threatening to overwhelm him. Alara would have fought to her last breath to protect the station. Reactor stabilization failed. Announced the station's automated system. Catastrophic breach imminent. Evacuation protocols initiated. In the shuttle bay, Ramirez was prepping the remaining vessels. "We have 3 operational," he shouted over the alarms. "Each holds 12 people maximum." With nearly 40 survivors crowded into the bay, the brutal math was unavoidable. "Women and children first," Amari ordered, her weapon trained on the barricaded entrance where pounding had already begun. "Then essential personnel with critical knowledge. Go!" Eris lifted the traumatized Lyra into the nearest shuttle, entrusting her to Dr. Kavita while he helped others board. The pounding at the entrance grew more insistent. The first shuttle launched, barely clearing the bay before Kthar energy weapons pierced the barricade. "Second shuttle, go now," Amari commanded as she and her team provided covering fire. The vessel detached, but a precise shot from a Kthar heavy weapon caught its propulsion system. The shuttle spiraled helplessly, crashing into the station's outer ring. Eris fought despair as he boarded the final shuttle with Lyra, a wounded Ramirez, and 9 others. As the bay doors closed, he witnessed Amari fall, her body riddled with energy discharges. The Kthar advanced implacably into the bay, firing at the departing shuttle. The small vessel shuddered as it took multiple hits, but Ramirez's piloting skills kept them moving, accelerating away from the dying station. Behind them, Viridian's reactor containment failed spectacularly, the resulting explosion consuming much of the station and at least one Cathar vessel that had approached too closely. Emergency protocols, Ramirez gasped, blood seeping from his side. Need to hide? Asteroid belt. Send encrypted distress. Eris took the controls as Ramirez slumped unconscious. With minimal flight training, he navigated toward the dense asteroid field orbiting Proxima Centauri b. The shuttle systems reported multiple failures. They wouldn't survive long. With the last of their power, Eris transmitted an encrypted emergency signal, fragmented, distorted by the asteroid field's mineral composition, but carrying essential data from his laboratory core. Then he shut down all non-essential systems, holding his traumatized daughter close as they drifted silently among the asteroids. Through the viewport, he watched the Cathar vessels conduct a perfunctory sweep of the area before departing, apparently satisfied their extermination was complete. In the absolute darkness of their powered-down shuttle, surrounded by the soft weeping of survivors, Eris clutched the data core containing the last testament of Viridian Station and prayed someone would hear their call. The battered transmission reached Luna Command 72 hours later. The operations center fell silent as the fragmented message played. Distorted images of Cathar warriors executing civilians, the screams of the dying, Dr. Eris Thorne's desperate voice identifying the attackers before the transmission degraded into static. Fleet Admiral Jien Li stood motionless as the recording ended, her slender frame rigid with controlled fury. When she finally spoke, her voice was glacial. "Verification?" she asked. "Confirmed, Admiral," replied the communications officer. "Encryption signatures match Viridian Research Station. The attack occurred 4 days ago." Li studied the data display, showing the estimated position of the distress signal. "Survivors? Unknown." The message indicates at least one emergency shuttle escaped, but conditions would be difficult. Li nodded once. "Dispatch rescue vessels immediately. Full medical complement." She turned to her second-in-command. "Prepare a briefing for the United Earth Council within the hour. I want Expeditionary Fleet 3 on high alert." As her officers hurried to comply, Li remained at the central console, replaying sections of the massacre. 150 researchers and their families, peaceful scientists conducting xenobiological studies far from any disputed territory, slaughtered without provocation or warning. The United Earth Council's emergency session proved contentious yet brief. The horrific imagery from Viridian silenced the usual diplomatic equivocations. Even the peace faction, typically opposed to military action, found little ground to stand upon. The unprovoked genocide of unarmed civilians demanded response. "The Cathar must understand the consequences of targeting Earth citizens," declared Councillor Voss, usually the strongest voice for diplomatic solutions. "But we must act with proportionality and within interstellar law." Proportionality? Admiral Li's question cut through the chamber. "Please explain what constitutes a proportional response to the systematic execution of 150 civilians, including 37 children." Before Voss could respond, Earth President Okafor raised her hand for silence. "Admiral Li, the Council authorizes full military response. The operational details we leave to your discretion." Her gaze swept the room. "Let the record show unanimous consent. The Cathar Empire has committed an act of war against Earth. We shall answer accordingly." Within hours, Admiral Li activated Operation Scythefall, a comprehensive retaliatory campaign designed to strike deep into Cathar territory. The objective was clear: exact such a devastating cost that the Cathar would never again consider humans viable targets. On the flagship Retribution, Commander Eva Rostova assembled her elite strike force, known unofficially as the Reapers. At 35, Rostova had earned her reputation through tactical brilliance and absolute dedication. Her team comprised the most effective special operators in Earth's fleet, each selected for both skill and psychological resilience. "This mission differs from our previous operations," Rostova informed her team as they reviewed footage from Viridian. Our objective is not merely military victory, but lasting deterrence. The Cathar understand only dominance and submission. We must speak in terms they comprehend. She paused the footage on an image of Cathar troops executing kneeling scientists. Command has authorized unrestricted warfare protocols. No quarter offered. No prisoners taken. Every Cathar military and strategic asset we encounter will be neutralized permanently. The team absorbed this with professional detachment. Only Lieutenant Marcus Thorne, no relation to the Viridian survivor, asked for clarification. Rules of engagement for non-combatants, Commander? Rostova met his gaze steadily. The Cathar made no distinction at Viridian. Fleet Command has determined that all Cathar present at military or strategic installations are valid targets. The implicit order hung in the air. This was to be a campaign of absolute retribution. Not since the Martian insurrection had Earth forces been authorized to operate with such latitude. As the briefing concluded, Rostova was summoned to the medical bay. A rescue vessel had returned with survivors from Viridian, including Dr. Eris Thorne. She found him sitting beside his sedated daughter's bed. The physical resemblance to Lieutenant Thorne was coincidental but striking. Both men shared the same haunted intensity, though the scientist's eyes held a grief the soldier had yet to experience. "Dr. Thorne," she said quietly, "I am Commander Rostova. When you're ready, we need to discuss what you witnessed at Viridian." The man looked up, his expression hardening. "You're part of the response force." "Yes, we're preparing to engage Cathar forces." "Good." The word emerged as something primal. "They executed everyone they found. My wife died protecting the reactor core." His hand tightened around an object, a crystalline data storage device. "I managed to save this. Station logs, research data, including our recent work on xenobiological protein structures. Some of our findings might be relevant to Cathar biology." Rostova accepted the device. "This could be invaluable, Doctor. Our intelligence on Cathar physiology is limited." "Make them pay," Thorne said, his voice barely audible. "Not just for Viridian. Make them understand what happens when they target the defenseless." The commander nodded solemnly. "That's exactly our intention." Expeditionary Fleet 3 departed Earth orbit the following day, a formidable armada of warships, carriers, and troop transports. The journey to Cathar space would take weeks, even with faster-than-light travel, but Earth wanted its response to be overwhelming when it came. The fleet atmosphere combined grim determination with righteous anger. Most personnel had viewed the Viridian footage. Many had family or colleagues in the scientific community. This wasn't merely a military operation, but a statement of Earth's resolve. As the massive ships entered the void between stars, Admiral Lee addressed the fleet from the Retribution's bridge. "We carry with us the memory of Viridian Station," she said, her measured tone belying the steel beneath. "Our mission is justice, not vengeance, though they may appear indistinguishable to our enemy. We strike not from hatred, but necessity. The Cathar must learn that Earth protects its own, no matter the distance or the cost." The words were for the official record. The unspoken command was understood by all. The Cathar had chosen extermination as their language. Earth would now respond in kind. The Cathar mining outpost on Xylo's moon had minimal defenses. Its garrison comprised mostly conscripted workers from lower castes, supervised by a small contingent of warrior-class overseers. When Earth's fleet emerged from hyperspace with surgical precision, the outpost had barely enough time to transmit a distress signal before its communications array was vaporized. Orbital bombardment neutralized external defenses within minutes. As Cathar fighters scrambled to respond, they encountered overwhelming firepower that reduced them to debris. The few shots they managed to return dispersed harmlessly against Earth vessel shields. Commander Rostova led the Reaper's dropships through the sporadic defensive fire, landing directly at the outpost command center. The squad deployed with mechanical efficiency, their powered combat armor providing both protection and enhanced lethality. "Remember Viridian," Rostova transmitted to her team as they breached the complex. No hesitation. No exceptions. The Kthar defenders fought with the desperation of a species known for refusing surrender. Their chitinous natural armor provided some protection, but Earth's forces had come prepared with specialized ammunition and energy settings calibrated to penetrate their biology. Through her tactical visor, Rostova monitored her team's methodical advance through the facility. Lieutenant Marcus Thorne led Alpha Squad through the eastern production areas, while Captain Sato's Beta Squad secured the processing plants. Her own team targeted the command center. The first Kthar they encountered were worker caste, smaller than warriors, with less developed armor plates. They dropped their tools and raised appendages in what might have been surrender. Rostova didn't hesitate. Her plasma rifle discharged 3 times. The workers collapsed, their carapaces smoking from the precisely placed shots. Behind her, Sergeant Diaz followed up with confirmation rounds. "Command, this is Eastern Approach," came Lieutenant Thorne's voice. "We have resistance in the refinery area. Warrior caste, fully armed. Neutralized with extreme prejudice," Rostova responded, moving her team forward. The battle intensified as they approached the central command structure. Kthar warriors emerged from defensive positions, their own weapons, primarily energy-based cutters designed for mining, but lethal nonetheless, creating a deadly crossfire. Rostova registered casualties among her forces. Diego hit in the shoulder, Chung taking fire through a leg joint, but the Reaper's advance didn't falter. Each injury only reinforced their resolve, each fallen Kthar a fractional payment toward Viridian's debt. They breached the command center to find the outpost's overseer, a higher caste Kthar with elaborate armor. Embellishments surrounded by their command staff. The overseer stepped forward, emitting a series of clicking sounds that the translation software interpreted with a slight delay. "We surrender this facility. We claim protection under the Galactic Compact for her." Rostova fired first. The rest of her team followed instantly. Within seconds, the command staff lay dead, their bodies riddled with specialized ammunition. "All units report," she transmitted, stepping over the overseer's corpse to access their data systems. "Alpha Squad, Eastern Sector's clear," replied Thorne. "Beta Squad, processing area secured," added Sato. "No survivors. Extraction in 15 minutes, Rostova ordered, downloading the outpost communications and logistics data. "Plant the charges as you withdraw." As the Reapers returned to their dropships, they left behind preset antimatter charges at key structural points. From orbit, Admiral Lee watched the subsequent detonation transform the outpost into a crater of superheated rock. Nothing remained that could be salvaged or rebuilt. The Kthar would find only evidence of absolute destruction, a message delivered with unmistakable clarity. The fleet continued its advance, targeting the Kthar communications relay at Azure Nebula next. The pattern repeated: overwhelming force, systematic elimination of all personnel, complete destruction of facilities. The Kthar resistance grew marginally more organized, but remained ineffective against Earth's focused assault. During the Azure operation, however, something changed for Rostova. As her team cleared the communications facility's auxiliary control room, they cornered a group of Kthar technical staff, clearly not warriors. They wore minimal protective gear and carried no weapons. Their postures displayed what the commander's cultural briefings identified as extreme fear. One younger Kthar, identifiable by their less developed carapace, positioned itself protectively before an older individual. The gesture was unmistakably one of self-sacrifice, of protection. For a fraction of a second, Rostova hesitated. Something profoundly recognizable in that protective instinct pierced her combat focus. Her team noticed the pause. Lieutenant Garcia looked to her for confirmation. Rostova hardened her expression and gave the hand signal to proceed. The room was cleared with mechanical efficiency. But as they moved to the next section, the image lingered. The younger Kthar shielding another, displaying the same protective instinct she'd seen countless times among her own soldiers. The same instinct that had likely driven Dr. Thorne to protect his daughter as their world collapsed around them. She pushed the thought aside. Viridian demanded retribution. Operation Scythefall would be completed as ordered. Word of Earth's devastating campaign reached the Cthar homeworlds. Imperator Varkas, the supreme leader of the Cthar Dominion, initially dismissed the human response as the expected emotional overreaction of a lesser species. Let them expend their fury, he told his high command. They lack the resolve for sustained conflict. But as reports continued, outposts obliterated, communication hubs destroyed, supply chains disrupted, his confidence wavered. Counteroffensives failed spectacularly, with Cthar battle groups either annihilated or forced into humiliating retreat. The humans fight without honor, complained Admiral Zakivaris. They offer no terms, accept no surrenders. They fight as we taught them to, replied an older general, one who had opposed the Viridian operation. We harvested contempt. Now we reap its yield. Throughout the galaxy, other species watched Earth's retribution with mixed reactions. Some felt vindicated satisfaction. The Cthar had bullied many developing civilizations over the centuries. Others observed with newfound apprehension. Humanity, previously regarded as diplomatic and measured, had revealed a capacity for calculated destruction that demanded reevaluation. Commander Rostova's operation at the Cthar Weapons Research Facility marked a turning point. The installation was less heavily defended than expected, suggesting the Cthar were struggling to maintain their military positioning as Earth's campaign continued. During the assault, Rostova's team captured several Cthar scientists intact, a deviation from standard procedure that she justified as necessary for intelligence gathering. When Lieutenant Marcus Thorne prepared to execute them following information extraction, Rostova countermanded the order. We need ongoing intelligence about their weapons capabilities, she stated, ignoring Thorne's questioning look. Secure them for transport to the Retribution. Privately, Rostova conducted the interrogation herself, utilizing advanced translation technology. For the first time, she heard Cthar perspectives directly. Their fear, their confusion over the scale of Earth's response, their revelations about the political pressures from higher castes. The Viridian operation was Imperator Varkas's direct order, explained the lead scientist, a carapace-guard Cthar named Kvex. Many questioned attacking a research outpost, but dissent is not tolerated. Why target scientists? Rostova demanded. They posed no threat. The Imperator believes all human expansion threatens Cthar dominance. Viridian represented human encroachment into space he claims as ancestral territory. Kvex hesitated before continuing. There is more. The Imperator has authorized a desperate measure, the synaptic plague. The scientist described a bioengineered pathogen designed to attack complex neural systems like the human brain, causing rapid neurological decay and death. The plan involved smuggling the agent to Nexus 7, Earth's largest commercial hub, where it would spread throughout human-controlled space before detection. The delivery vessel departs within 3 standard days, Kvex concluded. The Imperator believes this will end human resistance once their populations begin collapsing. Rostova immediately attempted to relay this critical intelligence to Admiral Lee, but communications disruptions, possibly Cthar countermeasures, prevented complete transmission. Only fragments reached the flagship, insufficient to justify diverting from the established campaign. Meanwhile, aboard the Retribution, Dr. Eris Thorne had been working with military scientists to analyze the data from Viridian. His team's protein structure research, initially unrelated to military applications, had unexpectedly revealed vulnerabilities in Cthar biochemistry. Their nervous system utilizes a unique protein configuration, he explained to Admiral Lee. The same research that Cthar forces try to destroy might help us identify this biological weapon or develop countermeasures. Lee studied the partial transmission from Rostova. She mentions a pathogen targeting neural systems, scheduled for deployment soon. Could this be related to your findings? Possibly, Thorne replied. But I need more specifics about the agent. Lee weighed her options carefully. Rostova's intelligence seemed critical, yet fragmentary and unverified. Diverting fleet resources based on incomplete information could jeopardize the entire campaign. Yet ignoring a potential biological attack against Earth's civilian centers was unthinkable. Establish a secure channel to Commander Rostova on a non-standard frequency, she ordered. Send Dr. Thorne's preliminary findings and request confirmation on this biological threat. The message reached Rostova as her team prepared to return to the fleet. The connection remained tenuous, but she received enough to understand. Their missions now operated on parallel tracks. Admiralty needed absolute confirmation before committing resources to counter the synaptic plague. Lieutenant Thorne, Sergeant Diaz, Captain Richards, she addressed her most trusted officers. We have a secondary mission of critical importance. Volunteer basis only, probable suicide odds. All three stepped forward without hesitation. What's the target, Commander? Asked Thorne. A Cathar biological weapons transport preparing to deliver a neurological pathogen to Nexus 7, she replied. We intercept, confirm the threat, and neutralize. Based on information from Cathar prisoners? Diaz questioned skeptically, corroborated by Dr. Eris Thorne's research findings. She noted the lieutenant's reaction to the shared surname. Relation. Not that I'm aware of, Commander. Well, his research may save billions. Our job is to ensure he gets that chance. Using the captured scientists' access credentials and intelligence on Cathar shipping protocols, Rostova's small team infiltrated the bioweapons facility on the outer moon of the Cathar colony Vorlash. They moved in shadow, using adaptive camouflage to avoid the reduced but still dangerous security forces. The facility confirmed their worst fears. Production units manufacturing a weaponized viral agent, precisely matching Kvex's description. Rostova documented everything, transmitting burst encryptions to the Retribution when possible. They located the transport vessel, a nondescript freighter designed to blend with normal commercial traffic. Its small crew consisted of fanatically loyal Cathar special operators, utterly committed to their mission. Approach vectors mapped, whispered Captain Richards, studying the facility through enhanced optics. Security patterns identified, but the distribution system is housed in a sealed compartment. We'll need direct access to neutralize it effectively. And the transport launches in 6 hours, added Diaz. We're cutting it close. Rostova considered their options. We go in through maintenance access. Richards and I will secure the viral agent. Thorne and Diaz, you handle the crew. They moved during shift rotation, using the scientists' credentials to bypass outer security. The intersections proved more challenging. Genetic scanners and life-form detectors required technological countermeasures that drained their equipment's limited power supplies. Detection became inevitable. A security technician spotted their heat signatures on a secondary system. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Accelerate timeline, Rostova ordered. Direct assault on the transport. Now, they abandoned stealth for speed, engaging Cathar security forces in close-quarters combat. Diaz took a glancing hit from an energy weapon, but remained operational. Thorne eliminated 3 warriors with precision fire as they approached the loading bay. The transport crew initiated emergency launch protocols. The vessel's engines ignited as Rostova's team fought their way onto the boarding ramp. Richards deployed a technical override, forcing the external hatches to remain open during engine startup. A dangerous breach of safety protocols that bought them precious seconds. Inside, the Cathar crew responded with suicidal determination. These were elite warriors, selected for absolute loyalty. Rostova and Thorne pushed forward toward the command deck, while Richards and the injured Diaz secured the path to the cargo hold containing the biological agent. On the command deck, they encountered the mission commander, a high-caste Cathar warrior with ceremonial scarification denoting special status. Your efforts are meaningless, the commander clicked through their translator. Even if you stop this vessel, others will follow. The Imperator has decreed humanity's neural plague. It is inevitable. Thorne responded with concentrated fire, but the commander's enhanced armor deflected the worst damage. The Cathar launched forward with surprising speed, specialized blades extending from forearm sheaths. Rostova narrowly avoided decapitation, countering with her combat knife, specifically designed to penetrate Cathar joint seams. The commander hissed in pain as the blade found purchase between carapace plates. The ship shuddered violently, the engine still attempting to launch while external hatches remained open, creating dangerous system instabilities. "Richard's status," Rostova shouted into her comm while grappling with the commander. "Cargo hold secured," came the strained reply. "But the delivery system is active. Automated countdown initiated. 3 minutes to aerosol deployment." The commander emitted a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "The plague will be released. If not at your nexus, then here. Either way, humans die." Lieutenant Thorne, recovering from being thrown against a bulkhead, fired a precision shot that penetrated the commander's optical covering. The Cathar shrieked, momentarily incapacitated. "Go!" Thorne shouted to Rostova. "Stop the deployment. I'll handle the bridge." Rostova raced toward the cargo hold, navigating the increasingly unstable vessel. She found Richards attempting to bypass the automated system while Diaz, despite his injury, maintained a defensive position. "Can't stop the countdown," Richards reported grimly. "The failsafes are biological, keyed to Cathar genetic markers." "How much of the agent is here?" Rostova demanded, examining the distribution apparatus. "Enough to infect a small continent," Richards replied. Primary production was aboard. Rostova accessed Dr. Thorne's transmitted research, searching for anything useful. His findings on Cathar protein structures suggested a potential vulnerability in the viral agent itself. It required specific environmental conditions to maintain stability. "The containment system maintains precise temperature and pressure," she realized. "If we rupture the environmental controls but keep the delivery system intact, the agent denatures," Richards concluded. "But we need to remain aboard to ensure complete neutralization. And with engine systems destabilizing, we won't survive the blast radius," Rostova finished. She opened a channel to Thorne. "Lieutenant, status?" "Bridge secured," he responded. "But systems are failing. This thing is going to explode whether it launches or not." Rostova made her decision. "Diaz, Richards, evacuate immediately. Take our documentation and return to the Retribution." "And you, Commander?" Diaz questioned. "Lieutenant Thorne and I will ensure the viral agent is completely neutralized before detonation." Her tone left no room for argument. "Someone needs to deliver confirmation to Admiral Lee." As her two officers reluctantly departed, Rostova worked with Thorne to systematically destroy the environmental controls while preventing premature aerosol deployment. The ship's structural integrity deteriorated around them. Warning systems blared in Cathar language, translated by their systems as increasingly urgent evacuation notices. 2 minutes until catastrophic failure, Thorne reported. "Agent status?" Rostova checked the monitoring systems. "Temperature rising, pressure destabilizing. The protein chains are beginning to break down." She paused. "You have a connection to Dr. Eris Thorne?" Even through his helmet, she could sense his surprise at the sudden question. "No. Same name, but he hesitated. My father was a terraforming engineer. Died during the Europa project. He'd be proud," she said simply. "This action saves billions." The lieutenant nodded. "Escape pods still functional, Commander." "Slim chance, but—" "No," she interrupted. "We need absolute confirmation of neutralization. Someone stays until the end." "Then I stay too," he stated firmly. A violent explosion rocked the vessel as the engine containment systems finally failed. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, separating them. "Thorne," Rostova shouted into her comm. "Bulkhead sealed," he replied, his voice remarkably calm. "No override possible. You have clear path to the escape pod. Agent status shows complete protein breakdown." "We've done it, Commander." "Go, Lieutenant. Tell them I thought of Iridian at the end," he said. "Make it count, Commander." The ship shuddered again, more violently. Rostova made her decision, racing for the remaining escape pod. As she launched away from the disintegrating vessel, she witnessed its final moments. A spectacular detonation that consumed the bioweapons facility as well. leaving nothing but superheated debris. The small pod's communications were limited, but sufficient to transmit their findings and confirmation of the synaptic plague's neutralization. For 3 days, she drifted in the minimal life support environment before a retribution scout located her. Admiral Lee was waiting when she was brought aboard, still in her battered combat armor. The biological threat? Lee asked without preamble. Neutralized, Admiral. Lieutenant Thorne confirmed complete breakdown of the agent before detonation. All production facilities destroyed. Lee nodded, satisfaction evident despite her carefully controlled expression. Casualties? Lieutenant Marcus Thorne, Captain Richards, Sergeant Diaz. Rostova's voice remained steady, professional. The lieutenant ensured mission success at the cost of his own extraction. The fleet received your data transmission, Lee said. Dr. Thorne has already developed preliminary countermeasures should the Kthar attempt to recreate the pathogen. Your team's sacrifice likely saved billions. Rostova should have felt triumph. Instead, the faces of those Kthar technicians at Azure and Nebula haunted her, alongside Lieutenant Thorne's final moments of self-sacrifice. The line between justice and vengeance, so clear at the mission's outset, had become increasingly blurred. Admiral, she ventured. The Kthar scientific prisoners provided critical intelligence. Without their cooperation, I understand your implication. Commander, Lee interrupted. Rest and recover. We'll discuss broader strategic considerations once you've been medically cleared. Aboard the Kthar Central Command vessel, Imperator Varkas faced unprecedented crisis. Reports flowed in of devastating losses across multiple sectors. The humans' retaliatory campaign had crippled Kthar military capabilities far more effectively than anyone had anticipated. The synaptic plague deployment failed, his intelligence chief reported. Facility destroyed. No salvageable material remains. Varkas, his ornate carapace dulled with stress, turned to his assembled high command. Options. For the first time in generations, the word surrender entered Kthar strategic discussions. The humans fight without restraint, observed General Kvaris. They target all installations, all personnel. They neither offer nor accept quarter. As we did at their research station, noted an older admiral. They merely mirror our tactics with greater efficiency. Then we shall break that mirror, Varkas declared. Prepare our remaining fleets. We will converge on their primary advance force and overwhelm them through superior numbers. His commanders exchanged uncertain glances. Such a strategy would leave Kthar core worlds virtually undefended. And if this fails? Asked Kvaris carefully. The Imperator's mandibles clicked in agitation. Then we deploy the contingency. We will not be the only species to fall. On Earth, political pressure mounted as Operation Sci-fi's true nature became increasingly public. Uncensored footage of Earth forces executing surrendering Kthar leaked to civilian networks. Senator Lyra Voss led congressional hearings questioning the campaign's scope and methods. We authorized defense of Earth interests and proportional response. She challenged Admiral Lee via quantum communication, not systematic extermination. The Kthar understand only absolute strength, Lee responded evenly. Every installation we've neutralized represents potential future attacks against human settlements. You're creating a precedent of unrestricted warfare, Voss countered. Where does it end? Complete genocide of the Kthar species. Lee's expression remained impassive. Our objective is deterrence through demonstrable consequence, Senator. The Kthar targeted the helpless. We ensure they never consider such action again, by becoming what we claim to despise. Voss leaned forward. The Galactic Council has formally expressed concern. Other species watch how we prosecute this conflict, Admiral. They judge humanity's character by our actions. They will judge whether humanity protects its own, Lee replied. The Kthar made their choice at Viridian. We simply ensure they understand its cost. The debate continued, but Lee recognized the shifting political winds. Peace factions were regaining influence as the initial shock of Viridian faded and the reality of Earth's retribution became clearer. She would need to adapt strategy accordingly. On the retribution, Commander Rostova reviewed intelligence from Cathar Communications intercepts. The capture of their weapons research facility had yielded access codes that enabled deeper penetration of enemy networks. They're consolidating remaining forces, she informed her reconstructed team during briefing. Intelligence suggests a desperate final stand. Let them come, said Corporal Young, who'd replaced the fallen Lieutenant Thorne. We'll finish this. Rostova studied her eager officers. They still carried Viridian's righteous anger, uncomplicated by the doubts that now plagued her. Our mission parameters are evolving, she stated carefully. Admiral Lee has ordered increased emphasis on intelligence gathering. High-value Cathar personnel are to be captured when possible. Capture? Sergeant Lopez questioned. We've never taken prisoners before. Policy adjustment, Rostova replied. Political considerations from Earth. The team received these modified orders with evident skepticism, but their discipline held. As they prepared for deployment to the next target, a Cathar communications hub connecting multiple sectors, Rostova privately reviewed additional intelligence from the imprisoned scientists. Kvex, the lead researcher, had provided disturbing insights into Cathar social structure. Lower castes suffered under the militaristic leadership of Imperator Varkas, with dissenters systematically eliminated. The Viridian attack had been opposed by multiple military commanders, but Varkas had personally ordered the operation as a demonstration of Cathar supremacy. Most concerning, Kvex had explained, is the Imperator's contingency protocol. Should Cathar military superiority be fundamentally threatened, he has authorized deployment of stellar destabilizers against inhabited systems. Planet killers, Rostova had clarified. Yes, the technology is imperfect but effective. The Imperator believes if the Cathar Empire faces existential threat, they should not fall alone. This intelligence proved impossible to ignore. Rostova forwarded a priority communication to Admiral Lee, emphasizing the credibility of the threat. The response came quickly. Continue with scheduled operations, but prioritize intelligence on these stellar weapons. The planned assault on the communications hub proceeded with modified objectives. Rather than total destruction, Rostova's team would secure the facility long enough to extract strategic data, particularly anything related to the contingency weapons. The operation began with standard overwhelming force, but execution differed significantly. When Cathar personnel attempted surrender, Rostova ordered them secured rather than eliminated. Her team registered surprise, but complied professionally. Access points secured, reported Specialist Zhang from the Central Communications Array. Downloading their network data now. Time frame, Rostova asked, maintaining defensive position near captured Cathar officers. 3 minutes for critical systems. Full download would require 15. Take what we need most. Priority to weapons, systems information, and high-level command communications. As Zhang worked, Rostova studied their Cathar prisoners, a mix of technical specialists and junior officers. Their body language displayed the expected fear, but also confusion at their continued survival. Through her translator, she addressed the highest-ranking officer. Your Imperator plans to use stellar destabilizers if conventional forces fail. Confirm. The officer's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. The translation came through hesitantly. The contingency exists. Not all approve. Where are these weapons? Rostova pressed. Before the officer could respond, proximity alarms blared. Zhang looked up from the communications array. Commander, Cathar reinforcements approaching. Significant numbers. How significant? Multiple capital ships. They're converging from 3 vectors. Rostova realized immediately they'd walked into a trap. The Cathar had sacrificed the communications hub to lure in Earth forces. Emergency extraction, she ordered. Zhang, grab whatever data you've secured. Everyone to dropships now. As her team moved rapidly toward evacuation, Rostova made a critical decision. Rather than executing the Cathar prisoners per standard operation, she ordered them moved to the extraction point. They're valuable intelligence assets, she explained when Sergeant Lopez questioned the order. Impossible leverage against these stellar weapons. The retreat became chaotic as Cathar forces began orbital bombardment of their own facility, clearly willing to sacrifice it to eliminate the Earth strike team. 2 dropships successfully launched, evading increasingly dense weapons fire. The third, carrying Rostova, 5 team members, and their Cathar prisoners sustained damage to navigation systems. Manual control, Rostova ordered, taking the pilot's position. Evasive pattern Delta. Her piloting skills, honed through special operations training, proved barely adequate against the concentrated Cathar attack. The damaged vessel limped toward the Retribution, shield systems failing. This is Commander Rostova, requesting immediate cover fire and emergency landing clearance. Critical intelligence aboard. Admiral Lee's flagship responded instantly, deploying fighter squadrons to create a protective corridor. Point defense systems engaged incoming Cathar ordnance as the damaged dropship approached. They landed hard, the vessel's systems failing completely as it skidded across the hangar deck. Emergency crews rushed to extract personnel as damage control teams contained the resulting fires. Rostova emerged last, escorting the Cathar prisoners personally. As medical teams attended to injured Reapers, she approached the waiting Admiral Lee. Situation report, Lee demanded. Ambush, Admiral. Multiple Cathar capital ships coordinated the attack. Rostova gestured to Jean. We secured partial data download before extraction. And these? Lee indicated the Cathar prisoners with evident disapproval. Source intelligence on the stellar destabilizers, Admiral. High-ranking operations officer who confirmed the weapon's existence. Lee's expression remained stern, but she nodded. Get that data analyzed immediately. We need confirmation of this threat. As Rostova complied, the Retribution's sensors detected the approaching Cathar fleet. At least 12 capital ships supported by fighter squadrons and support vessels. They've committed everything they have left, observed Captain Miyazaki, Lee's tactical officer. Targeting solutions acquired. We studied the tactical display. Hold fire. Let them approach to optimal range. Admiral, Miyazaki questioned. If they've truly committed their remaining forces, let's ensure none escape, Lee replied. Signal the fleet to prepare for envelopment pattern. Earth's vessels moved with coordinated precision, forming a 3-dimensional web that would allow the Cathar fleet to enter but not withdraw. As the enemy approached, tensions rose on the Retribution's bridge. Enemy fleet maintaining attack vector, reported the sensor officer. No indication they recognized the trap. Linudda. They're desperate. Desperation clouds tactical judgment. In the analysis center, Rostova and Dr. Eris Thorne reviewed the capture data while technicians interrogated the Cathar prisoners. The stellar destabilizer threat is real, Thorne confirmed grimly. The physics is theoretically sound. Targeted gravitational disruption of a star's fusion processes. Location? Rostova asked. That's the problem. Thorne displayed a star chart. According to this data, they've positioned 3 devices at these coordinates, each targeting a major Earth colony world. And these activate automatically if their forces are defeated? No, they require direct authorization from Imperator Varkas. Thorne's expression darkened. But given their current military situation, Rostova immediately contacted Admiral Lee, transmitting the confirmed threat data. The weapons are real, Admiral. 3 devices, 3 targets. Authorization locked to the Imperator. Lee absorbed this information as the tactical situation evolved. The Cathar fleet had entered the engagement envelope, still seemingly unaware of the trap. Commence attack, Lee ordered. All vessels, coordinated fire. Target their command capabilities first. Earth's fleet opened fire simultaneously, a devastating barrage that overwhelmed Cathar defensive systems in seconds. Several enemy vessels exploded immediately. Others returned fire desperately. But the positioning advantage allowed Earth forces to maintain optimal firing solutions while minimizing exposure. The Cathar flagship is attempting to withdraw, reported Captain Miyazaki. Shall we pursue? Lee considered the stellar weapon information. Is the Imperator aboard? Intelligence suggests high probability, Rostova confirmed, having joined the bridge. Flagship communications match his security protocols. Then we need him alive, Lee decided. Disable their engines and weapons, but avoid destroying the vessel. Prepare boarding parties. For the first time in the campaign, Earth forces deliberately held back from delivering a killing blow. Precision strikes disabled the Cathar flagship's propulsion and weapons while leaving life support intact. Boarding team ready, Rostova reported. I request command of the operation. We studied her. Your recent decisions regarding Cathar prisoners deviate from established protocols, Commander. Those decisions provided the intelligence we're acting on, Admiral, Rostova countered. Understand the stakes. After a moment's consideration, Lee nodded. Proceed. But your primary objective is clear. Locate and secure Imperator Varkas before he can activate the stellar weapons. The boarding operation proved more challenging than anticipated. Despite their disabled vessel, Cathar defenders fought with the desperation of those expecting execution. Rostova's team advanced methodically, suffering casualties but maintaining forward progress. Command deck located, reported Specialist Zhang, analyzing captured system data. 2 levels up, heavily defended. All teams converge, Rostova ordered. Breaching pattern Alpha. They fought their way to the command deck's sealed entrance, a massive reinforced barrier designed to withstand significant damage. Even with breaching charges, creating an entry point required precious minutes. As they worked, Dr. Thorne contacted Rostova from the Retribution. Commander, we've decrypted more of the stellar weapon data. The devices are receiving continuous authentication signals from the flagship. If those signals terminate, the weapons activate automatically, Rostova concluded grimly. So we can't simply destroy the flagship. Correct. You need to maintain their authentication broadcast while securing the Imperator. This added complication necessitated bringing technical specialists forward. While combat teams engaged the Cathar defenders, Zhang and his technicians located the authentication broadcast systems and established control protocols. Broadcast stabilized, Zhang confirmed, but it requires constant adjustment. Their systems are attempting to lock us out. Maintain at all costs, Rostova ordered, positioning additional security with the technical team. Primary assault team with me. The breaching charges finally created an opening. Rostova led the assault into the Cathar command center, encountering the most elite warriors of the Imperator's personal guard. The fighting became hand-to-hand in places, Cathar blade weapons against specialized combat armor. Through the chaos, Rostova identified the Imperator, larger than other Cathar, with elaborately decorated carapace plates and ceremonial insignia. He stood at the center of the command platform, surrounded by remaining guards, manipulating what appeared to be a specialized control interface. He's activating something, shouted Sergeant Lopez, firing precise shots to clear a path forward. Rostova charged through the opening, targeting the Imperator directly. A Cathar blade caught her armor, slicing through to the flesh beneath, but momentum carried her forward. She crashed into Varkas, disrupting his interaction with the control systems. The Imperator was surprisingly strong, his natural armor withstanding impacts that would incapacitate others. He struck back with devastating force, denting Rostova's helmet and cracking her visor. Your species dies today, the translator rendered his clicking speech. The weapons are already activating. Rostova drove her combat knife into the joint space between carapace plates, finding vulnerable tissue. The Imperator shrieked, but continued fighting, mandibles attempting to grasp her damaged helmet. Zhang, she shouted over the tactical channel. Status of the weapons. Activation signals detected, came the frantic response. They're powering up remotely. With a final desperate effort, Rostova drove the Imperator back against his control console. Capture the authentication codes, she ordered. Use them to send abort commands. The technical team worked frantically while the battle raged around them. Lopez and the assault team gradually overcame the remaining guards, securing the command deck perimeter. Authentication system accessed, Zhang reported. Transmitting abort sequences now. For several agonizing moments, nothing changed. The Imperator, despite multiple wounds, emitted sounds that translated as laughter. Too late, he clicked. The stellar destabilizers have initiated primary sequence. Nothing can stop them now. Zhang's voice returned, unexpectedly calm. False, Imperator. Your authentication protocols were designed with identical emergency overrides. Standard Cthar military doctrine, we found the pattern in previously captured systems. The console displayed confirmation. The destabilizers had returned to standby mode. The Imperator's struggle diminished as the reality of defeat settled upon him. Earth forces secured the command deck completely, capturing the Cthar leadership intact. Rostova, bleeding from multiple wounds but still functional, approached the subjugated Imperator. Your fleet is destroyed. Your weapons neutralized. Your options are limited to unconditional surrender or complete annihilation. Varkas stared at her with alien eyes that nonetheless conveyed profound hatred. You should have killed us all, human. Mercy is weakness we would never have shown you. That, Rostova replied, is precisely why we choose differently. Within hours, the Cthar Empire formally surrendered. With their military leadership captured and their forces decimated, they had no alternative. Earth dictated harsh terms, significant disarmament, territorial concessions, war reparations, and the extradition of those responsible for the Viridian massacre. Admiral Li presided over the formal surrender ceremony aboard the Retribution. The remaining Cthar leadership, including many who had privately opposed Varkas's policies, accepted Earth's terms with the pragmatism of a species facing existential threat. You have demonstrated superior force, stated the new Cthar representative, a moderate named Kavaler. We acknowledge defeat and accept your conditions. Li's response was measured but firm. Earth sought neither this conflict nor the destruction it necessitated. Remember this lesson well. We protect our own, but we stop short of extinction. Don't mistake restraint for weakness. Following the ceremony, Rostova met with Admiral Li in private. Her injuries had been treated, but physical recovery would take time. You disobeyed direct orders regarding Cthar combatants, Li stated without preamble. Multiple times, Rostova stood at attention despite her injuries. Yes, Admiral. Those disobediences ultimately provided the intelligence that prevented planetary destruction. Li's expression remained unreadable. A fortunate outcome, but still insubordination. I accept full responsibility for my actions, Admiral. Li studied her for a long moment. Operation Scythefall accomplished its primary objective. The Cthar will never again target human interests without considering the consequences. But the line between justice and vengeance proved thinner than anticipated. Permission to speak freely, Admiral? Li nodded. At Viridian, the Cthar made no distinction between combatants and civilians. They showed no mercy, offered no quarter. Rostova chose her words carefully. We responded in kind, initially, but continuing that approach would have made us what we claimed to despise. A philosophical distinction lost on those who died at Viridian, Li observed. Perhaps, Rostova acknowledged, but not on those who survived, not on Dr. Thorne or his daughter, not on humanity as a whole. Li moved to the viewport, observing the stars beyond. The Galactic Council has both condemned the Cthar genocide at Viridian and expressed concern over Earth's retaliatory methods. Other species now view us differently, with respect, certainly, but also wariness. Is that disadvantageous? On the contrary, a rare smile crossed Li's features. A peaceful species known for overwhelming, effective response when provoked is seldom provoked. The aftermath brought significant changes. Earth established a stronger military presence throughout its colonial systems, emphasizing defense capabilities that would make future attacks prohibitively costly for potential aggressors. Dr. Eris Thorne continued his research, using knowledge gained from Cthar biology to develop enhanced medical applications. The data that survived Viridian's destruction ultimately benefited humanity in ways no one could have anticipated. His daughter Lyra, though forever marked by her experiences, eventually became a diplomatic specialist focusing on interspecies relations. The Cthar, under new leadership, began the slow process of cultural transformation. With the militaristic upper caste diminished, moderate factions gained influence. Their society remained hierarchical and alien to human sensibilities, but diplomatic channels stayed open. Commander Eva Rostova received both commendation for the mission's ultimate success and formal reprimand for protocol violations. She accepted both with equal composure. The experiences had transformed her understanding of warfare's purpose and limitations. During her recovery, she requested permission to meet with the families of her fallen team members, particularly Lieutenant Marcus Thorne's parents. Though no relation to Dr. Eris Thorne, the lieutenant had died with similar courage and purpose, ensuring others would live. At a memorial service for Operation Scythefall's casualties, Admiral Lee unveiled a monument that also commemorated Viridian's victims. The inscription read simply, "They targeted the helpless. We answered without mercy." Both remind us of our capacity for destruction and our responsibility to choose better paths. Rostova, standing among the gathered officers and families, considered these words. Earth had demonstrated its ability to unleash devastating retribution when provoked. But in that final moment, when annihilation of an enemy species became possible, humanity had chosen restraint. The Cthar would remember Viridian as the mistake that nearly destroyed their civilization. Earth would remember it as the tragedy that revealed both their darkest capabilities and their ultimate refusal to be defined by them. As the ceremony concluded, Rostova noticed Dr. Thorne and his daughter among the attendees. The girl still carried the shadows of trauma in her eyes, but she stood straight, her hand her father's. Survivors rebuilding. Perhaps that, Rostova reflected, was victory enough.